The ACC is without a doubt one of the bigger conferences in all of Division I college basketball, and it has definitely given the sport its fair share of greatness. From the elite squads of North Carolina and Duke to the surprise team that have come out of nowhere like Maryland in 2002, the ACC is always the conference to watch, and in the past decade, the Virginia Cavaliers have played their part in the conference's rich history. While they have played basketball since the early 1900s, they didn't have a lot of success and for the majority of their history had put together some average seasons. But in 2019, the program captured its first men's title and has been one of the better college basketball teams since 2010. So how did Virginia basketball get to this point of being an elite program year in and year out? In today's video, we'll be looking at the rise of Virginia basketball. Though Virginia had been playing basketball since 1905, they didn't experience their first bit of success until the late 1970s under head coach Terry Holland. Holland had been hired back in 1974 and was taking over a program that had yet to make an appearance in the NCAA tournament and had only qualified for the NIT twice. But in just Holland's second season in charge, Virginia made its first ever NCAA tournament with an 18-12 record. This was just the start of Holland's run at Virginia, and it wasn't the last time they would make the tournament. Holland coached Virginia from 1974 to 1990, and his most successful run in that span was from 1980 to 1984, where Virginia was among the best teams in the nation. Starting with that 1980-81 season, Virginia went 29-4 led by center Ralph Sampson, earning the top seed in the East region and making it all the way to the Final Four before losing to ACC rival North Carolina. They followed that impressive season up with a 30-4 finish, once again receiving the number 1 seed, but they came up short after being upset by UAB in the Sweet 16. The 1982-83 season was again much the same for the Cavaliers as they went 29-5, receiving the number 1 seed but lost a close contest to ACC rival North Carolina State in the Elite 8. They had 3 impressive seasons but 3 very disappointing finishes with the talent on the roster. After this season, Ralph Sampson entered the NBA draft, and while the program lost its best player and one of the best players in the entire nation, they would still find ways to win. Virginia was not as good in the 1983 and 84 season as they had been in previous years, as they went 21-12, finishing 6th in the ACC and earning the 7th seed, but they worked their way to the Final Four before losing to the Houston Cougars. But for the rest of the Holland era, this was really the last deep run they had in this span. They did make the Elite 8 again in 1989, but got blown out by Michigan to bow out of the tournament. This era of Virginia basketball was important for the future of the program, as this was their first period of true success. Of course, they didn't capture the NCAA title, but they won an ACC championship, made it to 2 Final Fours, 2 Elite 8s, and a Sweet 16, so they still remained very competitive. The next head coach in line was alumni Jeff Jones, who held the title from 1990 to 1998. He couldn't match the level of success that Holland had, but he was able to win games and Virginia remained competitive. They captured the NIT title in 1992 and also made it all the way to the Elite 8 in the NCAA tournament in 1995 and finished that season at 25-9. But that was about the peak of the Jeff Jones era, and after 1998, the program and Jones moved in different directions. But over the next decade from 1998 to 2008, Virginia basketball took a small step back. They had 2 different head coaches in this era, Pete Gillen from 1998 to 2005 and Dave Lato from 2005 to 2009. Between the 2 head coaches, Virginia would only have 1 NCAA tournament win coming in 2007, and after those 2 came Tony Bennett in 2009. Bennett was previously the head coach at Washington State and had an impressive resume before arriving at Virginia. He actually finished with the 2 most successful seasons in Washington State history by record. But even with that, I don't think anybody could have predicted what Tony was going to build at the program over the course of the next decade. His first few seasons were rough as the program hovered around the 500 mark and didn't qualify for any postseason play. But Bennett slowly made baby steps into building the team into a formidable contender, and in 2012 they made the NCAA tournament, and in 2013 they made it to the quarterfinals of the NIT. Bennett had been able to successfully recruit plenty of talented players into the program over the past few seasons, getting some talented guards like Malcolm Brogdon and London Perrantes, and wings Justin Anderson, Anthony Gill, and Joe Harris, who led the way for this Cavalier era. The 2013-14 season was where Virginia really took that leap into the top 10. This season, they won the ACC regular season and tournament title and finished with a 28-6 record heading into the tournament. They had the best defense in the nation, allowing a little under 56 points per game, but they just couldn't really score the ball at an elite level, and because of this, they lost a close contest to Michigan State in the Sweet 16 by just 2 points. This would be the theme and the identity of the next few seasons for Virginia basketball, an elite defensive squad that kept games low scoring. Their good defense was thanks to their defensive scheme, known as the pack line defense. It runs on heavy ball pressure and tight help defense, with off-ball defenders finding their place in gaps. They often double the post, allow passing around the perimeter, and the off-ball defenders all remain tight, making it tough to get the ball in the paint. The only problem was that their offense just wasn't good enough to win them games come tournament time. A lot of great regular seasons would ensue following the 2013-14 season, but all were met with early exits or upsets in the later rounds. In the 2014-15 season, the team went 29-3 in the regular season with the best defense in the nation, but once again lost to the 7th-seeded Michigan State Spartans in just the second round of the tournament. In the 2015-16 season, they had the second best defense in the nation, a 26-7 regular season record, and earned the #1 seed in the Midwest region. They got pretty far for the first time in decades, winning against Hampton, Butler, and Iowa State before losing in the Elite Eight to the #10 seeded Syracuse Orange. After this season, the team lost Malcolm Brogdon and Anthony Gill to the draft, allowing other younger players to step up, but the team would take a step back. They had the best defense in the nation in 2016-2017, but ranked at 317th in the nation in terms of points per game. They still earned the #5 seed in the East region, but bowed out of the tournament in the second round to Florida, where they only scored 39 points in the entire game. But the 2017-18 campaign was the year where things got back on track for the team, or at least it started out that way. This team would be one of the more infamous teams in college basketball history, and not for good reason. They still had the best defense in the nation, but they were once again one of the worst scoring teams in the nation. They had some talent though, with guys like Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, and Devon Hall leading the way, and went 31-2 in the regular season while also capturing the ACC tournament title. They began the NCAA tournament as one of the favorites, and many thought this could be the year where Virginia basketball finally wins the NCAA title. But those title hopes were cut short, perhaps way too short, as they lost in the very first game of the tournament. They were a part of the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history and even sports history, losing to 16-seeded UMBC by a score of 74-54. That was probably one of the longest off-seasons period for Tony Bennett and the rest of the program. They had to watch the whole tournament thinking about what could have been, and they were constantly mocked for the loss. It was a low moment, but Tony Bennett actually recalls it as being one that brought the program closer together. And in terms of purely basketball, there was only one way that the team could recover from this moment, and that was to win it all. With a motivated and hungry Virginia team in 2018, the Cavaliers set out with a goal in mind and a clear focus. They came out with again the best defense in the nation, and the offense actually improved, averaging 12 more points per game than the previous season. Part of that was thanks to the emergence of sophomore forward DeAndre Hunter, but another reason comes down to an offensive scheme switch. Tony Bennett decided to get more versatile with the offensive sets that the team ran, so the offense wouldn't become stagnant like they would in years past. Virginia had ran a lot of their sets out of the blocker mover scheme, which essentially has a few guys designated as the scorers who get on the move, while the other guys attempt to get them open by screens or movement off the ball. This season, Bennett added continuity ball screens to get guys open by the pick and roll or pop, and even ran the middle triangle offense as well to create good shots. They finished the 2018-19 season with a 35-3 record, and once again earned the #1 seed in the South region. This time they took care of business against the #16 seed, and then went on to beat #9 Oklahoma, #12 Oregon, and #3 Purdue to finally make it back to the Final Four. There, they faced off against the Auburn Tigers, another basketball team that was on the rise. They won a nail-biter 63-62 that featured some controversy, but they finally had made it to their first ever national championship game. They would go up against Jarrett Culver and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. It was one of the more competitive championship games that we have seen, and the game even went into overtime, but Virginia ultimately prevailed and captured their first national championship behind impressive performances from Kyle Guy and DeAndre Hunter. Finally, after decades of mediocrity, then disappointment, then a major upset, the Cavaliers had reached the top of college basketball. The future of Virginia hoops is brighter than ever, and with head coach Tony Bennett as the leader, there's no telling how good this program can be. They have always been a tough elite defensive team, while playing slow basketball on the offensive side, and no matter who's on the squad, that identity remains true. Tony and company have successfully been able to recruit guys to come in and buy into the system, no matter how ugly some people think the system might be. Recruiting has gotten better as the years go on, and just this past 2020 class, they added 2 4-star recruits according to 24/7 Sports in Jabri Abdur-Rahim and Reese Beekman. But Bennett's recruiting has been great since 2015, and according to 24/7 Sports, 5 of Virginia's 10 best recruits have come since 2015, including 4-star recruit Casey Morsell, who looks to get more involved over this upcoming season. Even with this recruiting though, they only have one McDonald's All-American recruited to the team since Bennett took over. The focus for the program really has been carefully recruiting guys to fit into the culture and developing them further as players. One thing that really strikes me for Tony Bennett and his teams is what he looks for in players specifically. It's not pure athletes or shooters, but how they respond to losses. He states that I always think to myself about a player, can I lose with you? Losing is a truth serum. That's when you really learn about people. If we can lose together and we can still survive, to me, that's the foundational piece. And that really showed following from the 2018 tournament to the 2019 tournament, where Virginia won despite being upset the year prior in historical fashion. And of course, the biggest reason for their rise is how good they've been defensively. It seems like every year they are the best defensive team in the nation or among the elite teams in the nation defensively, and they have been able to take down some top teams in the nation purely because of their defense. Virginia basketball is in a great spot in 2020 and beyond, and it's the best shape they've looked in a long time, and they may be able to capture more titles in the future. But as always, only time will tell how long Virginia men's basketball can stay at the top of the sport. This has been the rise of Virginia basketball. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you guys next time.